Number 183 is The Green Inferno. Okay, I'm already convinced that I really, really do not like Eli Roth's movies, which is fascinating and kind of dumb considering I've only really seen two of them in glimpses of the others. I even somewhat enjoyed Cabin Fever, the original, not the remake that I reviewed, despite it being really stupid. But this movie was bad enough to make me hate his directing, because despite my limited exposure to him, this is basically an attempt at Cannibal Holocaust. Another movie you really shouldn't watch unless for historical film reasons. This is about an eco-friendly group of college students whose plane goes down over a bunch of cannibals somewhere in South America. And then there's really graphic cannibalism and pants shitting and shock for the sake of shock. Nothing really works on this movie. On top of that, there's this really weird, I don't know what the exact word is, but there's like this like overexposure and like saturation throughout the whole movie. It's really bad in the beginning, that you can really see it there. It looks really weird, and it's like as an attempt to make the greens pop, which I can respect, like doing some weird color grading, but it just makes everything look bad. Do you want a good horror movie about cannibals that's equally, if not more so shocking and as effective at it? Go watch Bone Tomahawk. Very gruesome, but good movie. Very good movie. This is not. This is a 3 out of 10. It wasn't even funny bad, for fuck's sake. Number 184 is The House Next Door. This was an interesting watch. It's a Bollywood horror movie about a house that used to be owned by a Chinese family who all died under mysterious circumstances, and a family that now lives there. But that's not the main cast. The main cast is in The House Next Door. What makes this movie so interesting is that all the strength is in the dialogue and the characters themselves. For example, the girl next door is some teenager who's a bit too into the Giga Chad dad main character.
I like only uppers. You know uppers, na? Coke, E, you know what I mean?
अच्छा एक डॉक्टर को ड्रग्स के बारे में समझा रही हो.
And he's fully aware of it, and she makes sure he's aware of it during a dinner. And it's really funny watching him politely thought begon her and treating her like a child, because yeah, that's what she is.
Timing is everything.
Timing.
जेनी क्या कर रही हो?
मैंने कुछ नहीं किया.
अरे कुछ खा ही नहीं रही. क्या ऐसे ही है क्या?
घर में भी ऐसे ही करती है.
Excuse me.
Come on, don't be shy. चलो, have your food. Come on.
No creepy pedo undertones with the dad. He just loves his wife. I liked watching these characters do their thing. The actors did a fantastic job, but all the horror stuff was not good and very cheap. This felt like a dramatic director's first go at a horror movie, just because there was a clear mismatch of what they thought would look cool or be scary, and what they were actually capable of. The script, from what I remember, was interesting enough too. It really was just the horror parts that were not done well. So, as a horror movie, it's like a 5. As an enjoyable movie, it's like a 7.5. Or like 7, I guess. So let's average it at 6.5. I don't think you'll be disappointed as far as being entertained, but the horror parts only really bring the score down because they genuinely are pretty bad. Number 185 is The Influence. This movie is where I pretty much fail as a reviewer, which is why I'm not a reviewer. Not really. I can't really say anything super bad about this film other than the characters not being interesting to watch, but for some reason it was just difficult for me to pay attention to, and I got kind of bored, so let me at least get the premise. This is a Spanish movie about a mother who is comatose, or I guess grandma's more accurate, and her family coming by to receive her will and testament. It just so happens that the mother was a terrible person who did awful things to her kids, and it just so happens to involve a cult. Sound familiar yet? Anyways, the little girl in the movie finds a spider locket and pockets it, and then she starts talking to coma grandmama, and starts to take on more and more dark characteristics as the movie progresses, and a grandma witch hooks her influence inside her. Sound familiar yet? Anyways, yeah, the set pieces, particularly the house and its like perfect decorations, are really the only thing to look out for, other than a few moments of neat imagery. But yeah, nothing really happens. It's not like Hereditary, where the last third occurs and it's like the beast finally wakes up and is terrifying. That's a metaphor, no spoiler. I really don't want to spoil that movie. I guess it's the script that's the problem with this film. I don't know, I do like gothic horror, but it needs more than just looking at things. 5.5 out of 10? It's not really horrible, but again, not much happens. It literally falls short and had plenty of time to not do that. Number 186 is The Invitation, another movie I had to rewatch because I forgot everything. And let me tell you, I've said this a million times, if you can't remember what happened in a movie and you weren't especially distracted for whatever reason, then there's a good reason your brain decided not to keep that information. Basically, you don't remember for a reason. This movie is about a still grieving father who's invited back to his old house by his ex-wife, along with a bunch of friends for a long-awaited reunion to clear the air and just be friends again. But his ex-wife is being very weird and floaty, and there's this random bald guy, and they're all acting very weird in some hippy-dippy cult that they're apparently a part of. Just a bald guy wife and her husband.
It's just a group of people coming together. You know, they all have lost someone, and they help each other. You know, it's really a science rather than like some weird religious cult or anything. You know, it's smart people like us here in LA, New York. Thousands of people. You'd be surprised.
Exactly what you think happens. Wow, already need to get into spoilers. I'll list some positives first. The suspense is very well stoked for before things actually happen. The actors do a good job of portraying their emotions and feeling like actual friends. So basically the first half is pretty great, but now spoilers. Okay, yeah, it's a death cult. They want everyone to pass on together, and yeah, Jim Jones style, they literally attempt to drink the Kool-Aid shit. Now, when the Kool-Aid fails, the bald guy just starts shooting people. And it's fine for the unexpected death stuff to happen, but you need to execute it in a way that's interesting to watch, but it's boring. It sucks, and it's boring. Anyways, 5 out of 10, good character stuff, but 0 interesting payoff. Better movies of this kind out there. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Number 187 is The Mansion. Now, this will be quick. Shitty French horror comedy that I skipped. Very boring, characters suck. They basically meet up in a mansion to have a New Year's party and stuff goes wrong. All the characters suck to watch, and it's annoying, and I don't think I laughed a single time during the hour or so that I watched. 3 out of 10, that's a standard skip movie score. Number 188 is The Mouse. So this is basically The Forest, if The Forest made sense in some way, but also doesn't really make sense in a very minor way. This is about a Bosnian lady and her boyfriend who on the way out of Bosnia to an airport, but then their car breaks down on the trail and they just can't go anywhere because the forest is full of fucking landmines. There is some historical context here, of course. There was the Bosnian genocide, which happened during 1992 to 1995, where Bosnian Muslims went through an ethnic cleansing by a Serbian army. Horrible, awful things happened. I can put up a link to if you want to learn more, but or you can just look into it yourself. This girl, Selma, is a survivor of those times, and she really wants to get the hell away from what's essentially an old battlefield. As they're stranded, they come across 2 mysterious Serbians, and of course, she's incredibly paranoid. Whereas the German boyfriend Alex knows they need to get the hell out of there, so he's like, fuck it, we'll just deal with them. She freaks out, runs into a landmine, but she's okay. The whole time, however, she has these hallucinations and PTSD symptoms where, in these hallucinations, the Serbians execute the boyfriend and commit atrocities to her. Again, these are just hallucinations, but spoilers from here. And then they're not hallucinations. The Serbians basically hold them hostage until Alex agrees to pay a ransom to lead them out of the minefield-covered forest. But of course, they could just kill them, so they're pretty much in huge trouble regardless. Selma strikes back and proceeds to either disable or outright kill their captors. This movie is well shot, and I do like the characters. I don't really think it deserves the low rating it gets, but I will say that the message seems to be very confused. Her paranoia and was slightly validated instead of a way for her to move past it. I don't know if they were trying to say, oh, I don't know what they were trying to say. Oh, and random monster, I guess. 5.2 out of 10. Number 189 is The Open House. I already knew a little bit about this movie going in, that it's supposed to be really awful and one of the worst movies on here. Unfortunately, that's true. This movie was misguided from the very fucking premise.
Have you ever thought about how weird open houses are? I mean, you give your keys to someone you hardly know, they stand in one room and welcome in a bunch of complete strangers. And those people just roam around the house. And the realtor doesn't check the house when it's done, right? They just turn the lights off and go?
Yes, kid, you're right. I'm sure that out of the 20% of people who are privileged enough to own houses and then sell them and then have a realtor do an open house for potential sellers, this would be a thought that may cross your mind. There are so few people that this premise, I think, would connect to. Is an open house weird? Sure, I guess. I wouldn't know. I live in a fucking apartment, and so do most people scrolling through Netflix watching this shit, or they don't, or no. Well, even that, even if you live in a house, how often are you selling your house? That's a one-time experience maybe that you might go through. I'm not saying that this can't work, it just confuses me. It's not fantastical enough like a wealthy ball gone wrong where you can suspend your relatability, because relatability is overrated in media, honestly, but it feels like that was what they were trying to do, and I don't know what percent of people would relate to this. Oh yeah, premise. Family of 3, daddy gets crunched into a dumpster by a car, they briefly move into a wealthy sister's house that's going for sale, and they only have to leave during the open house! And then weird shit starts happening in the house, you get the drill. They had something going on for a little while, with everyone in the new town acting odd and being weird, and I always like weird town settings, but they do absolutely nothing with it. Because what's happening, spoilers I guess, it's just a dude who snuck in there in the open house and is fucking with them. Then he eventually ties them up, tortures the mother and child, and by child I mean teenager, and kills them. That's it. They set up all this shit, unseen rich uncle, dead dad story, Alzheimer lady, weird clerk, creepy town, and did absolutely nothing with it. It's like somebody set up dominoes in a straight line, and nothing interesting, mind you, they just straight line going down the hallway, but instead of knocking them down, they just turned around and punched a hole in the wall. Doesn't make any fucking sense why they made the hole in the wall, but they did, they ignored the dominoes. These choices don't make any sense. Also, there's a very weird semi-Oedipus vibe where I got going on throughout the movie with the kid and the mom. I don't, like, really, the mom's like taking a shower, and the kid's on the outside, like, asking her if everything's okay, but they frame it to where you can see the naked mom in the same shot as the kid, and they're, like, right next to each other. Then there's a part where she's like, I'm not getting into that, fuck it. Yeah, 2.5 out of 10, nothing of value here. Number 190 is The Perfection. I'm a little disappointed because this movie could have been a lot better, but due to a few choices, and just a few really, I didn't enjoy it that much. The Perfection is about a genius cellist who had to leave fame and fortune to take care of her ailing mother, and their attempt to get back into the spotlight, as well as their budding romantic relationship with another genius cellist lady who had been living in that spotlight. And then they both went to the same get the cello school, but there's something else going on. Right off the bat, I'm gonna have to just get into spoilers because it's just that kind of movie. If you want a quick rundown without spoilers, it's like Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue, but less interesting and less good and less cerebral. Or maybe Black Swan's more appropriate comparison, but I haven't seen that. I just know of it. Spoilers. Basically, I can't fucking remember her names. Okay, Whitey, the white cellist, is a protagonist, and Black cellist, the other important character, is the other important character. Whitey takes B on a trip to China, and B gets horrifyingly sick, starts seeing bugs and shit crawl out of her. They kick her off the bus, and they leave them stranded in the wilderness. At this point, it's obvious that B is just hallucinating when she points at the bugs in her arm that we don't see. But then Whitey whips out a fucking cleaver and says, "Alright, cut off your chelling hand, B," and then that's what B does, because she's hallucinating. Weird record scratch rewind. No, I'm not. That's literally what happens. There's a weird fucking record scratch they put in there. And then it goes all the way back. Turns out Whitey drugged her and made her hallucinate the entire fucking thing to get rid of her cello playing hand and take her away from the gifted school's employee and spotlight. See, this is where the movie grabbed my interest. And then as the movie goes on, we learn that there's a specific reason as to why Whitey did this. Turns out that the gifted school is just a pedophile school for molesting and abusing kids, girls specifically, who aren't able to perform the perfection song perfectly. And that Whitey was just trying to get B away from their grasp. Like, that was the whole point of this. And this is where the movie slowly started to lose me. But I was still in for it. I was hoping that there would be more to the school other than weird pedo rape stuff, but that's pretty much it. Don't get me wrong, it's obviously horrible and fucked up, and it doesn't need to get much worse than that. But they set up to make it more culty and weird, and it kind of wasn't. Anyways, B is kicked out of school for one-armed shenanigans, and she gets herself back in by kidnapping Whitey and presenting her to the school leader and chief pedophile. And then right before Whitey is literally about to get held down and fisted by B, two of the school teachers foam up in the mouth and die. And you guessed it, or maybe you didn't, because why would you? Another record scratch rewind. Okay, now this is where the movie lost me. Do it once, I'm interested. Do it twice, and it feels like the movie's just lying to me and I can't really trust what's going on. It's like Kingdom Hearts, Jesus. It also kind of removed all gravity from what was happening. It was just a dumb decision. Oh yeah, B was on Whitey's side after Whitey explained her reason before kidnapping. And then they hatched this plot to kill the leader, I guess.
This is not a game, don't take me lightly. Brain cell from insane, bring the pain, I am nothing nice be. The last thing you see.
What's going on?
And then really inappropriate rap music starts playing and they kill the leader and torture him. Don't get me wrong, I love rap. I really do like rap. It's like one of my favorite musical genres. But it feels very forced and dumb in this scene of the movie. Like, this movie could have been really neat, but the direction choices just bothered me. I know this movie's highly rated, so disagree if you will. 5.3 out of 10. I don't know if I'd call it bad. I personally just disliked it, but it was for the most part okay, interesting, I guess. Number 191 is The Promise, a Thai horror about a suicide pact. What fun. I'm going to be repeating a lot of what I said during the House Next Door review that I just did. I like the characters, the script, overall writing, but I did not feel particularly scared. Although this movie was aware of what it could do regarding scares, so it did better in that department. This is about two friends, Ib and Baum, not to be confused with RPG Maker horror game, Ib. Ib and Baum live in Thailand, which is basically going through a stock market crash. A financial crisis sort of thing at this time in the story. I personally don't have too much knowledge about this point in history, but I'm interested to learn more. Here's a bit of what I gathered. Skip ahead, I guess, if you don't want to watch it, but hear about this. Basically, there's not one specific reason as to why the Asian financial crash in 1997 occurred. It just seems a lot to do with domestic capital flowing outwards towards other countries like the US, which led to a decline in the power of their own domestic money. And this, coupled with some corrupt practices, basically led to foreign money just running out, and the Thai government in particular being unable to support the exchange rate of their own cash. Oh, and massive debt suddenly being burdened from other stuff. Everything just kind of went to shit at the same time, basically. It's complicated. I'd recommend doing some research, or if there's any economists in the comments, please feel free to explain it, and I'll gladly pin it, because I do find this interesting. Back to the story. Ib and Baum are two friends in high school, best friends, and their families were working on an enormous apartment complex which got completely fucked over by the aforementioned crisis. Their lives basically went to complete miserable, awful shit. Ib and Baum decided to make a suicide pact to die at the top of the complex. Ib fucking goes for it and kills herself with a revolver, and Baum, understandably so, gets scared and runs away, deciding that maybe killing herself wasn't a great idea. Cut to the future, or present time really, after things have stabilized. Baum now leads a construction firm, I think. It's relatively successful, and she has a teenage daughter named Belle to take care for. At some point, they visit the abandoned complex for a project to restart, and her daughter comes across Ib's old PDA, and she takes it home. Uh-oh. Really quick, I want to mention this. I really do like the relationship between Baum and Belle. It's cute, it feels realistic, and it's honestly enjoyable just watching this mother and daughter interact. In fact, this movie's characters are all just written and acted pretty well in general. It does get a bit dramatic, but who cares. Anyways, it becomes clear that Belle is not being haunted by Ib, who attempts to have her commit suicide over and over again. What I really like is the length that Baum goes to, the understandably extreme lengths, to stop Ib from hurting her, to the point where she literally threatens people close to Ib in life to stop her from hurting her daughter. I can easily imagine a mother being pushed to this extent, and then they actually executed it. I thought that was cool. Belle even eventually begged to let herself die to her mom, so that way she doesn't have to put her mom through this shit anymore, because there seems to be nothing stopping it. What else is neat is that, unlike some of the other Asian horror, you did something bad and now you're paying for it movies on this list, this is actually reasonable. Yeah, she broke her promise to her friend, but the promise was to fucking kill herself, so of course you can still relate to Baum and not think of her as a piece of shit. That's all I'll say for this movie. Some of the horror stuff is alright, but this movie functions better as a dramatic, dark movie, I guess, instead of horror. 6.8 out of 10. Nothing too crazy, but it was a solid movie. I did enjoy it. Number 192 is A Ritual, which is another great horror movie about the woods. Well, one of two so far. I love this movie so much. I won't say much about it because the movie is almost like 3 different stories in one film, and obviously that's normal because of the 3-act structure, A and B and plots and shit, but it really feels like chapters, I guess, which makes sense because this is a book adaptation. A group of friends decide to basically reunite in Sweden for a hiking vacation after a long time, minus one friend who tragically died during their last go-about. Our main character, Luke, is particularly traumatized by this. The friend who died, Rob, was in a convenience store when it got robbed. And, unfortunate pun, the robbers threatened Rob for his ring. Luke, however, hid and was too scared to move, and then the thieves decided to kill Rob because he was too slow to give it over to them. Luke has been bearing that shame and guilt for not intervening the whole time, and that's kind of part of what he has as his luggage going into this movie. Anyways, they go hiking, and one of them injures their leg, so they decided to cut through the trail to get out faster. Uh-oh. They come across weird occultic effigies and symbols, and more odd shit starts happening, including an enormous figure stalking them somewhere in the background. They of course get lost in the woods, and more horrific stuff happens. I don't want to say much, so I'll just stop here. But this movie does go into a lot of different places and takes really good advantage of the creepy woods setting. I guess in a way I could put it, it's just bound to be compared to Blair Witch, which is, as I discussed earlier, one of the quintessential Lost in the Woods movie. It's a more solidly structured version of the Blair Witch movie. And it has its own very satisfying, cathartic ending. I enjoyed this movie so much, and I know you will too. 7.8 out of 10. I didn't rate it higher because there are some things that could have been taken further or fleshed out, but really it's a great watch. Actually, fuck it, no, 8 out of 10. I liked it a lot. Go watch it. Number 193 is The Rope Curse 2. Sequel rule, so I'm going past it. Going straight to 194, The Secret, which is another movie that I skipped close to an hour in. I'm so sorry about this, but it's... I've already gave you my justification in my last video. This is supposed to be about some daughter who has to deal with her dad having some new young wife that's the same age as her. Girl gets in an accident, ends up in hospital. There's really bad, disconnected to comedy horror scenes for the sake of them being there, despite having zero relation to anything else going on.
Una meninggal. Hah? Una meninggal.
Meninggal?
Meninggal.
Bo, ngapa nangis?
Demit. Dah minta amaan, Min. Setan. Aduh,
It's just not worth watching for anyone. I even read a plot summary afterwards, and it really just does seem to be that same idea of nothing being connected for the rest of the movie. Again, 3 out of 10, basic skip movie rule. Number 195 is The Silence, aka A Quiet Place. Maybe, I don't know, I never watched A Quiet Place. Similar idea, I guess. This has Kirsten Dunst, lady from The Black Goat's Daughter. Nothing else of note, I guess, other than that Sabrina thing. It's a sort of a post-apocalyptic monster movie about really annoying lizard wasp things that break out of a stone vault and terrorize the world. And since they're blind, they're attracted to sound, hence the name of the movie. They also attempt a weird religious cult angle where these things are supposed to be like harbingers of God to crazy religious people, but it's not at all fleshed out and it feels randomly forced. The movie is just very whatever. Acting's whatever, script is whatever, better monster movies out there, 4.4 out of 10. Go watch something else. Number 196 is The Unborn Child. So, I should have immediately skipped this rather than wait an hour to do so. I can't even show you anything from this movie. Like, trigger warning, I guess, because this is something I have to actually give trigger warnings for. Because I can't avoid talking about it. This movie is about abortion. It's all about that. This movie is about a back alley Thai abortion clinic where the ghosts of fetuses haunt you or something. The fucking movie starts with a PS2 tier CG animation of a baby getting aborted. I shit you not. That was the first thing I saw when I started this movie. And then it was followed by a back alley doctor Thai lady smoking cigarettes and giving some girl an abortion far out to the point where it's legally even allowed to do so. How do I know this? Because she yanks out a half-formed baby, then throws it into a garbage bag, and then chucks it into a pile of other 30 or so bloody garbage bags. What the fuck, dude? This movie is also just not good. It's dumb plot. The characters and actors are also dumb. It's just... I can take shock value and edgy shit. I've seen 90% of where the dead go to die. But there was like no artistic merit in what I just watched. It was really dumb, disgusting, and something I can't even really talk about because this is not the stuff I want to talk about, nor should I talk about on this list. Like the lessons don't even make sense. I can't tell if it's supposed to be pro or no. I'm not even talking about it. I'm not rating this fucking shit. Just don't watch it. No, I guess I have to. Yeah, 2 out of 10. Number 197 is the Vatican Tapes. So far, congratulations. I think this is actually the worst movie on this entire list. And we are very far in, 197 movies in, and you know what shit I've watched. So that's really, really saying something. I'm having a fucking headache typing this shit out. This is like the exact opposite of The Day of Our Lord. It's so... Alright, okay, so first thing I'll say is that this movie also looks like shit. It has this really bad digital quality to it. Everything's all gray and nasty, and it feels like they just forgot their tripod a few times, but the fucking camera's shaking. The shots in general are also just really ugly and gross. Nothing about this movie is something I want to look at. The plot itself is about a very nice girl, I guess, who gets possessed by some sort of devil or demon and her influence on things around her. There's a part where she makes some detective shove light bulbs in his eyes, which sounds rad as shit, but they turn him away so you don't actually see it. You just see like the back of his head as he's shoving the light bulbs in his eyes, because you know they have in no way the budget or creativity to show it. She then does typical demon-possessed shit. She influences mental hospital patients to riot and kill each other. Eventually, dad and boyfriend get an exorcist from the Vatican involved, and that's really when the movie hit the dookie mother load. Again, typical demon shit, but then it gets bizarre and weird, but not in a good way. The priest is restrains her and questions her, and it makes her vomit. She vomits 3 eggs, and then he picks up the eggs and demands to know where she got those eggs.
Where did you get this? This egg is the symbol of rebirth. From where did it come?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like that fucking matters. What, did you run out of like demon woman eggs and needed to know to get some more for his special omu rice? Anyways, it turns out she's the Antichrist or something, and then she starts running around the ceiling and jabbering in Aramaic and like throws wood and shit. At that point, between her and the Antichrist, it really feels like the director or producer was scared people wouldn't get it, so he just had the priest actor rapid fire every explanation at once. Anyways, he's having a hard time getting the Antichrist out, so he goes downstairs to get a box. I remember at this point thinking, what, is he gonna grab like a heaven gun and shoot the Antichrist? No, just a dagger he found at an antique shop that grandma may have used to cut open letters or impale rodents. He tries to kill her, really shitty, awful CG fire ensues, and she then exits and starts healing people because Antichrist, false prophet, Omen 2 ripoff, you get it. What especially sucks is that this wasn't funny bad like Aviri, it just flat out sucked in every possible way. 1.5 out of 10. So, my review criterion, anything below 2 is borderline unwatchable, and anything below 1 or 1 or below is where it's so bad that actual technical issues prevent me from finishing the movie. So I'm going to go ahead and state that this is going to be the worst thing on this list. I guarantee it. Number 198 is The Witch, or The Vavitch. I'm going to quickly get this out of the way. This is no longer on Netflix. Like, literally as soon as they started the tease, I was like, oh, let's go ahead and watch this, because I wanted to show it to Logan. And then afterwards, it got taken off. Like, it's not anywhere free or part of the server, so you do have to rent it. But I'm going to go ahead and get into why it's worth doing so. This is such a masterful American gothic horror movie, and it's definitely not for everyone, but I think a lot of people can really get into this.
What went we out into this wilderness to find? Leaving our country, kindred, our fathers' houses. For what? For the kingdom of God. Let us pray.
I first watched it in theaters with my two practically redneck friends that fucking took me, like redneck to the point that they took me to some dude's property to shoot whatever 30 guns they had lying around in their closet. You know, classic depiction of a southern white dude. And they liked this movie a lot too. So I think most people can enjoy this. I should explain the premise. It's set in like the 1600s. It's about a family exiled from a Puritan colony for their father's different religious beliefs. It's pretty vague about what exactly they differed on or what it means, because the details aren't really the point. More so that the father wouldn't budge. Anyways, they eke out a life on their own in some sort of field at a house, and then little baby Samuel goes missing, and things start to spiral practically to hell. Oh, also, acting, completely top-notch. All of them like played their roles practically perfect, especially to Anya Taylor-Joy and a father played by Ralph Ineson. Mild spoilers from here, but honestly, just go ahead and watch it. Trust me, it's fantastic. Anyways, baby Samuel is taken literally in the blink of a fucking eye when Anya's character is playing peekaboo, and then when she takes her hands away, the baby's gone, taken of course by an old witch, who then kills the baby and uses him to make a paste called flying ointment, apparently, to rub all over her body. The family dynamic just slowly splits apart from here. They desperately search for Samuel. One of the other sons gets afflicted by the witch from here when he's out in the woods searching. The mother starts to resent Anya's character for, you know, losing the child, and then just to hate her, and everyone starts accusing her or the children or the twins or the goat basically of being witches. It all just goes to complete hell. It's one of the best portrayals of like a family going crazy that I've ever seen. It's amazing. The witch hardly does anything the entire movie. She does 3 things in the entire movie, and it really only took 1 to cause all this. I definitely recommend this. It's an absolute slow burn, so keep that in mind. 8.8 or even like a 9 out of 10? I don't know. This is where ratings become really hard and almost pointless, because once you get into my shitty scales, 8 to 9 range, it's all really personal preference. I don't like saying movies in this category are better than the other, even on like a personal level. I just think they should all be watched. So yes, please do watch it. Number 199 is Thriller, and this one is unfortunately really stinky. This is not that much better than Vatican Taste, but I didn't want to vomit as I was watching it at least. First off, this is a directorial debut by Dallas Jackson. First off, dude, congrats on making a movie. I'm sorry it sucks, but you know, it's an accomplishment to put something together regardless. First lesson, don't name your project something that's difficult or annoying to look up. I looked this movie up by the actress's name, by attaching her to it. Without it, otherwise it just got tied up by a million other results. It's just a basic movie, I can't really say much else. I would hardly even call it a thriller, as the name says. It's just, Anyways, plot. A bunch of kids try to play a prank on a very slightly mentally handicapped kid, which involves just putting on shitty silver shamrock masks and jumping around him in a spooky house. And to show you just how nice a guy or misunderstood protagonist is, he buys a hot dog and gives it to a homeless guy who has the most fucking excited and awestruck shit in his pants expression I've ever seen. That must be a damn good gas station dog. Anyways, prank goes wrong, of course. He accidentally pushes one of the girls over the rail in the creep house and then she dies. The popo come and they blame it all on him and he gets locked up. The kid that was being pranked, I mean. Look, I'm not a cop, but I'm pretty sure this is not at all how this would go down. They'd first have to prove that it was an attempted or premeditated murder, which they could easily argue it being an accident or just kids playing. I don't get it. Anyways, kids are all grown up now, or it's about to be their last homecoming night. The friends don't seem like friends at all either. They seem to fucking despise each other, yet they keep hanging out. They all just seem really shitty people in general, except for like a select few. I don't know, it's just very odd relationships all around. I don't get it. Anyways, convicted boy is now free, 18-year-old teenager, and word gets around that he's out of juvie. Then people start dying and dropping like flies. Not in any particular interesting way, they just die, I guess. Oh, spoilers, sure. Movie shit, doesn't matter. And anyways, of course, Chauncey, the boy, I should give you his name. The Chauncey, the boy who was convicted, is a red herring. It's such an obvious red herring that I thought they were going to turn it back around and have it be him all along. That is so fucking weird. Anyways, turns out it was actually one of the original friends killing him off. And it was the guy who was the boyfriend of the girl who got killed in the prank, and was now killing them all of them as revenge. Keep in mind, they were like 8 years old when this happened. How he fucking managed to turn crazy and keep a candle for his 8-year-old dead GF is fucking beyond me. Other dumb shit too, like the hoe bag trope of the group, who is also the sister of the dead girl. She just randomly talks to herself in her sister's voice and pretends to have conversations.
I miss you, sis.
I miss you too. I miss you so much, sis. It's okay. Just make this a night to remember. For the both of us.
Was this also supposed to be a red herring? This also didn't really go anywhere beyond that. I don't really understand the point of this movie. I think the idea was that instead of a bunch of shitty white kids being killed it's a bunch of also shitty black kids, and it's taking place in Compton rather than Beverly Hills. It didn't really at all feel like they did anything different, and I would know. I live near one of the fucking murder capitals of the country. What's even more confusing about this movie is that there's really not much else you can do but just spin this trope. It's been done to death since the 70s, and then Scream came along and satirized it better than anyone else ever could have. There's no point to this shit. Anyways, Chauncey tackles boyfriend dude, saves the day, movie ends. 4 out of 10 maybe? I don't know. Number 200 is Train of the Dead. No, not Train to Busan. This is Train of the Dead. This is another Thai horror flick. This is about a group of robbers who take a motocross guy hostage and escape onto a mysterious and apparently haunted train. Sounds cool and fun, right? No. Sucks. Directing's pretty bland, characters are bland. Idea's cool though. Another perfect example where budget did not meet expectations. Nothing much to discuss here either. Basically trains an actual train to the afterlife. It's not just haunted though. And they had all gotten into a crash during the robbery, which is why they're all here to begin with. They gotta pay for their sins and I'll give some respect to the attempt at the visuals. It did look a little bit better from the middle where they played with the structure of the train a bit more, but overall it just unfortunately didn't work. 4.2 out of 10. I will always respect an attempt even if it didn't succeed. It felt like they tried here, which I can't say for Thriller. Okay, so normally I would talk about the two Tremor movies from here. Fucking started like crazy. But sorry, it looks like I'm gonna have to skip these two. Because when I first started the list, the entire fucking series was on Netflix, like the first movie up to the last one. And keep in mind, this is when I was belting out videos, but most of them got taken off before I got anywhere close to the teas. I got confused as to why the last two movies of the series were even on here. I don't get it. I was actually just going to start watching them anyways, but after some research, apparently there is some like interconnectedness regarding the family and the monsters between the movies, as well as other elements that make watching as a whole more enjoyable. So I was like, you know what, I'll just skip these for now. It's not going to be fair if I just review them for these last two. I'll make up for these, however, by reviewing a few other movies that got taken off a bit too soon, so bear with me. Number 203 is Truth or Dare. So I thought this was going to be a skip and just a review, because I thought I already watched this, but get ready to be confused. This Truth or Dare is not the same Truth or Dare with the shitty Snapchat smiley face filter that came out in 2018. To make this even more confusing, the Truth or Dare that I'm reviewing came out literally 1 year before the Blumhouse one. So if I were to compare the two, Snapchat filter, Blumhouse, shittier script, higher production quality. This Truth or Dare, still shit, but less shitty script, and it looks like a made-for-TV Stephen King movie. One thing of note is that the girl here, the main girl, is from Sharknado. That's it. Premise is practically the same. Some friends go to a house to hang out, then they play Truth or Dare. Shit gets real and they have to do the dare, or the dare do you. Basically, they have an allotted amount of time to do the dare before the dare automatically happens or you die. This is one of the parts of the movie where the rules don't make any fucking sense. In fact, there's a running theme where just the rules are confusing and aren't really sensible. In the Blumhouse movie, they just straight up ignored pre-established rules because they couldn't write anything. In this movie, they just tripped over their own script. On top of that, some of the dares just aren't as bad as the others. Like, this guy's dare ended up doing him, because he didn't do the dare did him, and he had to put his hand on a hot fucking stove. And his hand meat got crisped onto the iron, fucking ow. Then the next dare was for a girl to eat that same hand meat that got crisped onto the stove. I mean, sure, it's gross, but the guy wasn't dead or anything. I mean, besides, look at it, it's so crispy. Put some Creole and lemon pepper, and you got yourself a midnight snack. I guess one thing that was kind of okay was that they can game the dare and survive, because most of these dares will just straight up kill you, but then it doesn't make sense either, because then they can just share the dare, so you don't necessarily have to do it alone. But then why specify a person to get the command? The demon or ghost or whatever also gives commands and talks by writing things out on furniture, but why are the time limit notifications sent to their phone? There's also a dare later on where it's worded in a way that's so confusing that the demon itself didn't even like understand it. It said, cut off 7 living body parts. And then they start off, the girl starts off with a strand of hair from the head and an eyelash. And then they move on to toenails and fingernails. So me and Logan were watching this, and I remember saying, oh, they said living body parts because hair is just dead keratin and nails are also just like dead cells, so they don't count. But the demon says it has to be whole body parts and completely ignores that they use dead body parts even. So what constitutes a whole body part? Isn't an index finger a whole body part? It's a whole index finger. Isn't a pinky toe different than a middle toe? Why do they just go straight to lopping off a foot from a single toe? Why not just go, if different sectional hair counts too, couldn't they just use chest hair, nose hair, pube hair, ass hair? Why not just do ring finger, pinky toe? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I have expected the demon to walk out and just reset this entire dare because apparently no one knows how this fucking rules work. I'll say the movie was entertainingly bad just because you can at least riff with your friends about how the rules don't actually make any sense. They tried, I guess. Also, funny note, there's a part at the end where it's supposed to be ambiguous who survived at the end of the crash. You just, at the end of a car crash, you just hear a gasp over a black screen. But then the subtitles ruin that, and it just says the names of the people gasping. So that little bit there is completely ruined. 4.5 out of 10, it is really funny, but it's really dumb. Number 204 is Twinsanity. I'm not gonna blame the movie makers for the name as much as I did with Thriller, but all I can think about with this name is the Crash Bandicoot game, Crash Twinsanity, where you play as Crash and Neo Cortex. This movie also sucked donkey slong, and it's also another situation where the premise is completely unrelatable, and I struggle to find who would connect to it. This is obviously about a pair of twins who run a yoga studio. Main twin, very serious about yoga and wants to help people. Crazy twin wants to run it as a complete business to make money and wants total control over sane twin. Twins get an inheritance from mama, then crazy twin tries to use most of both their shares of the inheritance on the studio. But sane twin is like tired of the control and runs off with her fair share to go hang out with some other smelly hippie yoga studio man. Why they chose a yoga studio as the background setting for a horror movie is completely beyond me. It doesn't work, and they don't really do anything scary or creepy related to yoga. It is not that I know how you would, I guess you could just run over and snap your back in half in the middle of a sun salutation, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, movie sucked. There's nothing interesting about it, so a hard skip. 3 out of 10. Okay, so really quick before we move on, there's 2 movies I want to talk about to make up for the Tremor skips, as well as for the fact that these are genuinely good movies that deserve to be seen. Technically, the T's are done as far as what's on the USA Netflix, but please watch till the end. The Evil Dead was also going to be one of these movies but it got taken off. And well, I'm going to be giving that specific movie and whole trilogy really specific special attention. But if you're wondering, yes, that movie is 100% worth watching. It's quintessential Cabin in the Woods horror. Anyways, moving on. That's Evil Dead. Go watch that, but let's move on to the next thing. Number 205 is Train to Busan. This is probably one of the best straight-up zombie movies ever made. This is a South Korean horror flick that's been given accolades for years upon years now, and for very good reason. Plot simple: dad's taking his daughter that he neglects due to work on a train to Busan so that she can spend a birthday with her mom because the dad fucking got her a weed that he got her a year ago. And then the rabid zombie apocalypse breaks out. What's funny is that movies like these don't really need much to talk about because they're just good all around. It's just a good, well-made movie. The gore is good, the directing's fantastic, the characters and the relationships are so fucking well done and written. The plot and script is very tight, and the movie's really gut-wrenching, especially towards the end. I particularly like the expecting father character, not the main guy, but like this other father character, and the homeless man. They were really fun to watch interact, but everyone was good, even the child actor, and you know how I feel about child actors. Something else that kind of interested me was that in a lot of like big budget, high profile, like specifically American movies, how often do you see the male lead actually weep? No, I'm not talking about Vin Diesel looking up with no expression immediately after putting teardrops in his eyes. I mean serious like weeping and wailing. It's both terrifying and sad, but yeah, there's nothing bad I can say about this movie other than I don't really like zombie movies, but they did it as good as I think they could have done. 8.7 out of 10. It is free on Crackle with ads in HD, so check it out. The ads aren't in HD, the movie is. Number 206 is Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. You have no idea how much I love this movie. It might be the best horror comedy I've ever seen in my life. Again, not much to say here. It's about two good boy, nice hillbilly friends who saved up to buy a shitty vacation set that looks like a pile of garbage for their fishing trips. Dale is shy and has an inferiority complex and just wants to ask out Allison, one of the group of college kids they encounter, in his neck of the woods for a vacation. But he does it really awkwardly and while holding a giant scythe, so he ends up scaring them instead. The college kids go skinny dipping at their fishing hole later that night, but then Allison hits her head and nearly drowns. Luckily, Tucker and Dale are there to save her and help, but it looks like they just kidnapped her when one of the college kids just sees them dragging her out of the water. The entire movie is basically built on horror parody and misunderstanding, which is why it's so funny. The college kids are convinced that Tucker and Dale are psychopathic homicidal hillbillies when they're just well-meaning dudes who took care of her friend. Meanwhile, in their misguided attempts to save Allison, the college kids I mean, they inadvertently hurt themselves or even get killed, which furthers the misunderstandings. So you have college kids terrified they're going to get murdered, and hillbillies terrified of a group of suicidal college kids killing themselves all over their property. It's so fucking hilarious. The same score, 8.7 out of 10. These movies don't change the game in their genre, I don't think, but they're executed so well that it's about as good as they can get. Unfortunately, this movie isn't really free anywhere right now that I could find, but just rent it on Amazon. I'd highly recommend that you do that. Just watch it with some friends, have a good time. Number 207, kinda, is The Block Island Sound. So, quick background, this literally got added onto the catalog as soon as I started editing the audio. So I just went ahead and watched it, because I didn't get really far in at all. It's number 207, but technically 167 if we're being alphabetical. In the written list, it'll be notated correctly, so don't really worry too much if you care about that. I had to just stick it at the end here, though. So, from the cryptic name to the equally cryptic description alone, I was pretty excited for this movie. This is I can't really give it a genre because it's a spoiler despite being obvious. Without giving anything away, it's a mystery movie about a older son whose dad recently went missing in the middle of the night after taking his boat onto the Rhode Island waters, and the series of mysterious events that happen before and after, along with family drama bullshit. So, I'm gonna have to take this review in two halves, since one is about the actual plot and the other is about the family drama, and I've got criticisms for both. So it's not just weird shit with the dad, starting with the plot. As the opening scene with the conspiracy nutjob friend shows, weird shit's been happening on the island for a while.
Fucking true, and it's not just field mice that they're infecting. They're infecting human beings. Every human being on the fucking planet that has a cat. It's true. What's better than a dozen dead field mice? It's one brainwashed human being that's bringing you fancy feast every 5 minutes.
I want to quickly say I do like this conspiracy guy a lot. He's actually not as annoying or abrasive as I thought he would be. He was kind of fun. It was like a young Rhode Island Dale Gribble. Swarms of fish are washing up, dead, with no explanation. Birds are dropping out of the sky for same reason, dead, no explanation. Oh, and technology is fucking up randomly, just really small, random, staticky shit. Eventually, the brother, who's our protagonist, starts having moments where, like his dad, he wakes up at places with no recollection of what he was doing or where he was going, or why he was out there. And he's afraid that he's losing his mind, or something worse. Now, the drama aspect. So this brother, again our main character, is supposed to be like a grown man who's a a bum or not put together, I think. He lives with his old man on Block Island, watching over him since, like I said earlier, the dad has a habit of randomly wandering off in the middle of the night with no memory of anything. Eventually, his dad goes missing and doesn't come back the next morning. So his sister, like the brother's sister and her young daughter, come from the mainland to help him out and keep an eye on the brother, who also begins to have these strange same episodes. If you recall me struggling to describe the brother, it's because the movie clearly has him in the role of being the screw up of the family or the black sheep, despite not really showing anything to suggest that. He's just kind of a dude. Like he's just a guy. It gets even worse when the New Yorker sister, different from the one who has a kid, by the way, 2 sisters, comes by to also see what's going on. She's this arrogant, douchey prick of a lady who looks down on everyone there, including her brother, and I know that's the point.
You can get a 1-bedroom apartment in Cranston for $800.
He's not gonna know anyone.
You think he knows anyone here? He knew Dad. Period. It's all millionaires during the summer. Yokels and crazy people all year round.
What's he gonna do on the mainland?
Flip burgers, mop floors. What's he gonna do here? Here he's an adult. Gonna start acting like one.
She keeps talking about how fucked up everything is with him and the island, despite the fact that nothing really suggests that the brother is any sort of screw up until he starts having those same episodes. But the timeline doesn't really work there. You can't say that it's due to these episodes that he's being treated like shit. No, they were already doing that to him before they even knew about it. It's all very confusing watching this unfold. Like, I don't know, the director must have had some sort of hate boner for whoever this New Yorker character represented in real life to him. She's got no redeeming qualities, seriously. Well, anyways, spoiler from here, but it's really obvious. It turns out it's aliens. Apparently this was supposed to be a twist, but what the fuck else is it supposed to be?
But most of the fish we take out of the water, we put right back in just a few days later. We're learning about them. We're studying them so we can get to know them better. So we can help them better.
But how are you helping them if some of them end up dead?
I know it sounds mean and scary, but by taking some brave fish out of the water and learning about them, we can eventually help all the other fish.
And like literally as soon as this happened, I was like, oh, it's aliens. And I was fine with that. Like, it's fine to foreshadow it. Like, even this heavily, it's like not that terrible. But it just didn't really go anywhere interesting other than exactly what I expected, or I don't know. Anyways, character-wise, nothing super interesting happened, except for like that first thing with the conspiracy guy. But imagery or plot-wise, nothing super interesting happened, except for maybe that first tractor beam scene. Things just kind of follow through from exactly where you saw it would go. Eventually, the guy, main character, gets abducted, and his mom's sister and her little girl don't die. That's it. That's the movie. I was really disappointed because I liked the suspense and the feeling of the movie a lot. Really, to drive the obvious ass plot of this movie home, they repeated that same like spoiler dialogue I mentioned earlier at the very end of the movie, as if we already didn't get it.
But by taking some brave fish out of the water and learning about them, we can eventually help all the other fish.
I'm really surprised by the positive reviews. Like, nothing, and by positive, I don't mean just, I mean like overwhelmingly positive. Like, nothing very interesting happened here. It wasn't awful or even, I wouldn't even call it bad. It was just a movie. I was even more shocked to see that people weren't expecting it to be aliens. Again, what the fuck else would it have been? I don't know. Anyways, it's not nearly as bad as I'm making it out to be. 5 out of 10. I think other people probably enjoyed this a lot more than I did, judging from the reviews apparently. But I don't know, we don't really have very many alien movies on Netflix to begin with that are grounded, I guess. So it's got that going for it. And I do like the shots of Block Island. It does look really sufficiently creepy on its own. But this could have been much better. How unfortunate. Number 208, also kinda, is The Possession. This is also another movie that got added at the last second as I was editing, or beginning to edit the second part. So I'm pretty sure I've already stated this before, but if you're gonna make a movie in an already heavily diluted subgenre, please don't give it a generic name as The Possession. At this point, I'd like to get into these executives' heads and just see their reasoning. It must be something like keeping it generic enough so that it grabs the attention of somebody who's just mindlessly searching for horror movies of this exact specific plot or genre. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, movie review. This is a movie inspired from the story, truth, or fiction of the Dybbuk box. The story of the Dybbuk box, if you haven't heard of it, dates back to an eBay posting of a vintage wine cabinet claimed by the seller to be holding a malicious Dybbuk, which is like a displaced soul or something, that was the cause of this guy's bad luck and nightmares. And all subsequent owners and buyers of that cabinet have claimed much of the same, including Zack the Clown Baggins from Ghost Adventures and Post Malone. I was a little confused because, like I was saying earlier, and what I've read, a Dybbuk is just a ghost of a dead guy possessing people to do some unfinished business. Not necessarily a demon or whatever. I mean, I think that they're supposed to be. I don't know. But yeah, this movie's about a splintered family and the youngest daughter who comes across the box in a garage sale and hence gets Dybbuked or possessed by the Dybbuk. Why they didn't just call this movie something regarding the Dybbuk box, I don't know. It would have certainly helped it stand out a lot more. This movie is also just rife with unlikable and annoying characters, hammed up drama, and a hip Jewish actresses with little tentacle hair things. I forgot what they're called.
Excuse me. Sorry. I get kind of lost when I'm listening.
Seems like everyone but the dad is an annoying asshole or just really dumb, which did make it frustrating to watch. The movie also just kind of looks really shitty production quality wise, but whatever. One thing I will touch on, it is just like my experience with the Dabe series. It was interesting seeing a movie more focused on, I mean, it's still Judeo-Christian, but like more focused on like Jewish stuff rather than like, oh, this is Samhael, the demon of the Apocrypha. It was like more focused on like synagogue Jewy type things. Like there's a whole part where he walks into a Jewish town, I guess, and you see a bunch of people in hats and with the weird hair things. But I wish they leaned more heavily into that. They did kind of with the exorcism, which maybe this is racist to me, but it felt a little bit goofy. I'll show you what I mean. But yeah, I wish they leaned a little bit more into that. I think that would have made it more interesting, I guess, from like a cultural standpoint, which I don't really care about to begin with, but it's something. Because the plot of this movie is exactly what you'd expect from a movie of this nature. There's one surprisingly creepy scene.
Daddy, you scared me. Daddy, you scared me. Daddy, you scared me.
But they don't really do much more of that sort of scare, so don't expect it. Everything else is all jump scares and generic bullshit. The movie wasn't the worst thing I've seen, but it's also forgettable. In a weird way, it's the most representative of Netflix's entire horror selection. 4.3 out of 10. Okay, that was a lot. Thank you so much to everyone who made it this far, and to all the friends we lost along the way. So, there was going to only be one more video, but Netflix then dropped a shitload of new stuff as soon as I got done editing, so yeah. Just to set your expectations, here's what's next. The rest of the letters themselves are going to be done in the next video. It's literally just 10 movies. I'm already done as of recording this, so it's going to be really short. But there's going to be one last video, the leftovers basically, where I trawl through and pick up all the new movies that got added by the time I finished to really make this comprehensive and relevant, I guess. Anyways, expect that. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Share to your friends and leave a comment or whatever. See ya.